Hello everybody! Welcome to my channel Creations by Shubha, and I would like to thank you all of you for subscribing, liking, commenting and sharing probably some of the videos that are useful for beginners, and thank you again. So today we are going to talk about some of the mistakes that all of us as beginner students in Mandala Art may have done it or seen it, other people seen those mistakes being done by other people. So we all may have realized it, or in this journey will realize it, but I thought of bringing this video up so that you can take a look and figure out where you are going wrong as beginner students. Okay, so that, and then also I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks to get your first dots right. Okay, so if you fix those mistakes and do not struggle throughout your journey, your art is going to look just fabulous right from the get-go. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we are going to talk about is the paint consistency. And if you look at this one, I'm taking a Deco Art brand, Deco Art Americana brand, and the paint consistency should be like this. Okay, so when you're dotting, just make sure you are not pressing on the paper or with the tool. Okay, so you see this paint on the tool, so you're just going to be dropping that paint on the surface. Okay, so like this, make sure you're not touching the surface with the tool. So you see how nicely the dot is round. Okay, let me try and zoom it in a little more to see. Okay, yeah, okay, like this. So every time we are going to dip one time and dot one dot. Okay, one dip, one dot, and I'm not touching the tool on the surface that I'm dotting on. Okay, so you just have to make sure that you're not doing that. Okay, second thing is, of course, the paint consistency, that we will also take another example and see how this matters. The second thing is, especially when you're using this, the cylindrical tool, number one is not to touch the tool on the surface that you're dotting on. Okay, so you do not press on the surface with the tool. You're just dropping the paint on the surface, just that. Okay, so if you look at this consistency, yeah, and then just take your tool and drop the paint on the surface. That's it. Okay, this is one. Second is, as I said, the paint consistency. So let me demonstrate another paint. This is a folk art brand. This is folk art brand gold, treasure gold, and this brand is quite thick. Okay, so the paint consistency is like this. So you'll see the peak forming, the paint peak on the tool. So even if you try that trick, you're not going to get a very rounded dot. Okay, so the paint consistency is very important. With a thicker paint, even if you follow the rule of not touching the surface with your tool, you're not going to get a perfect dot. Okay, you're going to struggle with the shape of the dot, the rounded shape of the dot. So the paint consistency is very important. And if your paint is very runny, then you are going to risk running the paint on the surface with your tool. Okay. Number three is, when you're using this cylindrical tool, make sure you're holding it really 90-degree with the surface that you're dotting on. So you're not going to hold it like a pen. Okay, you're not going to hold it like this. Okay, so if you're dotting like this with this cylindrical tool, you're not going to get a very rounded dot. Okay, you have to hold it like this, like it has to be really, really 90-degree with the surface. So this is another mistake that I have seen with my students already. And earlier you fix it, the better you get sooner to the goal that you want to reach to. Okay, so that is number 3. Number 4 is, even if you're holding it like this, you have to support your wrist on the surface nicely so that you get the muscle control. Can you see my hands? Okay. Yeah, so you have to support the wrist on the table or the surface that you're dotting on, and then only you can hold it nicely straight 90-degree and then dot. Okay. So what I just saw in my class the other day is, I was discussing this with the kids class it was, and I was telling them, make sure you're resting your wrist on the table and then dotting. So uh, you know a kid actually was following it very nicely, but what he did was, just look at my hands right now. So what he did was, he started with this, he dotted, and then he lifted his wrist, and there. Okay, so you see how the dot came, like not a very centered with the paint. So every time he would start with like this, and then dot, and then lift it up like this. So of course he is a 5-year-old, and yes, the muscle control is still not fully developed by that age. So what I want to tell you is, make sure you're resting your wrist nicely on you have to be very relaxed on your wrist. Okay, so nicely rest your wrist, then nicely rest, have a good control. Don't hold it very tightly, your tool, but just have a good control on the tool, and just drop the paint and lift, but do not lift the wrist. You see how I am still resting with my wrist. And then when you're done with the dot, then lift it up. Okay, that's how you should be working with your wrist. Another fun thing that I saw with another kid is, of course, the instructions were same. He's an 8-year-old, and what he did an amazing job by adapting to his way of dotting. Okay, so he's probably too young to even get his wrist all the time down. So his wrist was not resting, but what he did instead was, he was resting his pinky side of his palm on the table. Okay, so he was resting like this, and then dotting. You see what I'm doing? Yeah. So whatever works with you, I can try that and see how that can also work. You see how I'm, okay, let's say I'm not resting my wrist, okay? But I am somehow managing to get my pinky side of the palm on the table. And then of course it's a little bit of challenge because my palm is not accustomed to that method, but yeah, I'm still getting good nice dot, and he did wonderful job in dotting. Okay, so that is all that I wanted to mention in this video, is that whatever works with you, go for it. This is an art to find your own joy and peace within yourself, but there are certain techniques, and these are some of the tips and tricks that I wanted to share. Some of the mistakes that we all may have done in our journey of dotting is, just take the tool with the paint, just press it really, really hard, and there you go, we have a dot. But then, is the dot having a nice, I don't know if you can see, okay, there it is. So if you look at this dot, you'll see there is an empty patch in the center. Yeah, because I was pressing with the tool too hard. Okay, so now this is with this consistency of the paint, Deco Art Americana. But if I use a folk art brand, and if I do the same thing, it's going to do weird thing. Okay, so if I press it hard and lift up, it's going to pronounce that effect of leaving a patch in the center behind. Okay. So these are the things that I wanted to talk about, and I hope that you are doing wonderful in your journey of beginner, mm, sessions in the dotting art. And this is a wonderful art. Just follow what your body is telling you to do with your hands while you're dotting, and just find a method that will help you gain more control with your hands. Okay. So I hope you like the video. Please write in the comments if these tips and tricks help you, and let me know what other things that you are struggling with. And if I have also experienced the same thing, I will definitely come up with a solution that might help you. And all the details are in the description box. I'm also taking classes and conducting workshops. So if you're interested, definitely visit my description box and my Etsy store for downloading practice sheets. Okay, bye bye. Take care.